Welcome to First Time Watching. The Black Phone is back with its second installment, and this time we lean a whole lot more into the supernatural than we did in the first movie. Of course, that raises some questions, especially about how the main protagonist's powers work, but also if we can expect a third installment in the Black Phone universe. I'll definitely get into all of that right after a quick movie recap. Rocky Mountains, Colorado, 1957. Hope Adler is calling someone near Alpine Lake while attending a youth camp in the mountains. She had a dream about 7 numbers, so she dialed them. She tries to figure out who this person is, but there's no answer, so she runs off. Then we jumped to 1982 in North Denver. Finney is knocking the shit out of some blonde rich boy. Gwen follows him and gives him crap for beating up the apparent new kid, but Finney tells her the kid asked for it. He wanted to know if Finney was really the badass who killed the serial killer, so Finney showed him. Ernie pulls up and invites Gwen to a concert. She kinda has the hots for that little nerd, so she accepts. That night, Finney is outside smoking a doobie. He can't stop thinking about the grabber. He keeps seeing him everywhere he goes. Gwen joins him outside to check on him, telling him it's okay to feel like crap. A boy is at camp, happy and carefree, until someone stabs him one night and drowns him in a frozen lake. Before he dies, he scratches a W into the ice, and that's when Gwen wakes up. She hears the phone ringing in the distance, gets up and walks toward it, but instead of picking up, she heads to the front door and opens it. A muffled voice wakes her. It's Finney pulling her out of her sleepwalking. She wants to tell him about her nightmare, but he doesn't want to hear it. The next day at school, the girls tease Gwen, calling her a witch. Even Ernie doesn't understand her fascination with ghosty stuff. He gives her a set of Spanish tarot cards and asks her about her dreams, because her dreams show her things that happened or are still in the future, like when she called the police because of a dream and they actually found a body. That night, Gwen dreams of another young boy getting lost and hunted in the woods. The killer chops off his head with an axe and throws him into the lake. This time, the boy scratches a B next to the W. The phone rings again. Gwen ignores it and walks outside. She finds a child's body on the ground in front of her house. She gets on her bike and rides into the night, while the phone keeps ringing and heads straight to the grabber's house from the first movie. She climbs into the room where Finney was held and picks up the phone. A girl is on the other end, Hope Adler, the girl from the beginning of the movie. Hope tells her about the 7 numbers. They both know they've had dreams about carving numbers and letters into ice. Then the call disconnects. A man with an axe in his head stands behind Gwen and tells her she shouldn't be there. The door opens behind her. Footsteps come down the stairs. The phone rings again and the room changes. It's Finney behind her. He found her in the grabber's house. She tells him she was talking to their mom. So Hope is actually their mommy. She says their mom reached out to her, but Finney doesn't believe it and says they should go. As she walks away, Gwen still has blood on her sock. Later, Gwen shows Finney a folder about the camp their mom attended when she was young. She suggests they go there for counselor and training positions. Their dad walks in and sees the folder. He mentions that their mom used to work there before he met her. The next day, Ernie is about to take Gwen to that camp, but Finney isn't going to let that little creep go alone with his sister, so he's going too. The 3 of them head out on a mini road trip. The snowstorm gets worse, so Finney gets out to scout ahead and make sure they don't drive off a cliff. He runs into a girl on a horse who leads them to the camp. Mando, the camp leader, greets them and explains the camp has been cancelled because of the storm. They're stuck there for now. As they look around, Finney spots a phone booth which triggers his PTSD. They settle in for the night, and Finney goes outside to smoke more grass. That night, Gwen has another nightmare. This kid scratches the letter H into the ice. She wakes up to the shack shaking. Outside, Finney hears a phone ringing and heads toward it, but the lights go out as he approaches. Finney starts to walk away, and the phone rings again. He picks up, says, "I'm sorry, but I can't help you," and hangs up. It rings again and won't stop. He answers and asks who it is. Gwen checks under her bed, but there's nothing there. Then she hears scraping from another bed. She lifts the covers and sees one of the dead kids. Finney hears the grabber's voice through the phone as the doors lock on him. The phone keeps ringing. Gwen is surrounded by 3 dead kids. The grabber tells Finney that hell isn't flames, it's ice. Behind one of the kids, the grabber materializes and decapitates him. Gwen screams. Finney hears her and runs, waking her up. She doesn't understand what's happening. Gwen has a burn mark where one of the kids touched her, so she gets into bed with Ernie for the night. He makes it weird by saying it's hot that she talks to fairy tale figures. Gwen tells him her mom was Christian and raised her that way. She says she inherited her dream powers from her mom, and they eventually drove her mom crazy. Gwen worries she'll go crazy too. After some awkward flirting, they almost kiss until Finney cockblocks them. The next morning, they They plan to investigate. Gwen shows them the burn mark, but Mando interrupts, calling them for breakfast. He tells them he does most work around camp with his niece, Mustang. He also warns them he noticed Gwen slept with the boys. This is their first and final warning. More importantly, he wants to know why they're really there. They clearly aren't churchgoers, so they must have found the camp on their own. They tell him their mom was a counselor, but died 7 years ago. They show him a picture. He remembers her. They called her Starlight. He asks how she died. Finney explains she took her own life, which is a major mood killer. Mando tells them to use the office phone to call home. He also says the payphone outside has been broken for years, but Finney hears a phone ringing in the distance again. He runs out and picks up. A little boy tells him it's cold. He doesn't remember what happened. Outside, the dead boys stand watching Finney. They beg him for help and bang on the booth. Finney hangs up. After calling home, Gwen and Ernie ask 2 workers for camp history, but they don't know anything. Ernie asks about kids being killed there, but Barbara dismisses them with some Bible verse. Gwen claps back with her own Bible knowledge. It seems Barb is just freaking useless. That night, Gwen dreams again. She sees her mom on the phone, getting closer, replaying the conversation Gwen had with her. One of the boys tells Gwen she isn't supposed to be there and runs off. She follows him into the forest, but wakes up when the door slams. Someone is standing there. The phone rings again. Finney and Ernie run outside. Gwen follows one of the boys. Finney tells Ernie to watch over Gwen while he answers the call. Gwen follows the kid into one of the camp buildings. Finney picks up. It's the grabber. The grabber stands outside the booth, asking Finney why he thinks he lured them to the camp. Finney says he knew they'd get trapped in the storm. Gwen walks into the mess hall and a light flicks on. Ernie is running around camp and wakes up Mando. Meanwhile, Gwen enters the kitchen. The ovens fall open. The grabber demands to know whether Finney understands what he needs. He wants to hurt him. He needs to hurt him. Finney made him kill his brother, the only person the grabber loved, and then Finney killed him. Gwen hears the conversation inside as the grabber walks out of the darkness and tries to kill her. He gets on top of her and chokes her. When the others run in, they can't see the grabber, just Gwen being thrown around the room. Ernie keeps her from being thrown into the oven. Finney enters. The grabber fades back into the dark. They wake Gwen, but now it's time for church, because that was messed up. Mando tries to figure it out. Gwen convinces him because she knows specific things about the boys. She says the boys want her to find them so they can move on. Mando is shaken. Then Finney reveals he's the kid who killed the grabber. Mando wants to know how it connects. Gwen explains the grabber attacked her in the kitchen. His spirit lives in this camp. Mando shows them a photo from the year before the camp closed due to the killings. Even after the closure, he kept searching for the kids and eventually bought the place to reopen it. Finney recognizes the grabber in the picture. Mando says that's Bill. They called him Wild Bill Hickok because he wore his tool belt like a gunslinger. Then it clicks. WBH, the letters in the ice. These 3 kids were his first kills. Finney asks, when weird things started up at camp again, was it around 1978? Mando says yes, because that's the year Finney killed Bill. His spirit must have returned then, feeding off the fear of his unfound victims. Gwen says the boys are in the lake. Mando agrees. Police never searched the lake because it was frozen. They think that if they find the boys, the grabber loses his power. Later, outside, Finney is smoking near the lake. Mando joins him and says he sees an angry boy and anger is fueled by fear. He gives Finney a pep talk that sets him on a path to healing. Then he steals his weed. The next morning, they go to the lake to find the bodies. They scrape snow away to look through the ice. They search all day but find nothing. Night falls. They'll have to protect Gwen again. Finney and Ernie take shift. Ernie asks Finney if he talked to his brother in the basement and whether his brother passed on. Finney says he was there and helped him defeat the grabber. Gwen starts dreaming. She sees a paperboy taken by the grabber, but this isn't her dream. It's her mother's. She's dreaming of Wild Bill. Gwen wakes and sleepwalks. Ernie puts her back in bed, but Dream Gwen still leaves. She follows her mom, sneaking out years earlier. Her mom goes to Bill's house and finds the basement where he kept the children. She tries to flee, but Bill drags her into his van. Now he appears and invites Gwen in too. She joins him. She sees her mother. The grabber says Gwen looks like her. He calls this a kindness. He'll show her the truth before he does what he has to do. He shows Gwen the moment her mom was hung in the garage, but she didn't kill herself. The grabber killed her, and for years they believed she died by suicide. Story time is over. Now it's time for him to kill her. He chases her through the house house until she opens a door and finds herself in his basement. The phone rings. It's one of the kids. He tells her to hide. She runs into the hole in the wall, but he slashes her with his axe. Sleeping Gwen starts bleeding too. One of the kids helps her escape. She ends up on the ice, standing by Mando, who worked through the night and has finally found one of the bodies. Meanwhile, the others try to wake Gwen, but the phone booth appears on the ice, ringing. The grabber skates toward Mando and breaks the ice, forcing Mando underwater, holding him down with his boot. Then he goes to the phone booth, wraps the cable around Gwen's neck, and yanks her into a bloody spin. Finney tells her to fight back. It's her dream. She does. She makes the phone booth explode. She tells the grabber he didn't bring her here. She brought herself. She holds the power in her dreams, and then she forces herself to wake up, and they rush to Mando, who's luckily still alive. The sun rises, and a car pulls up. It's their dad. He borrowed a snowplow to reach them, but Gwen doesn't want to leave. Their work isn't done. Their dad struggles to accept this. Finney wants to leave too. He's scared, but Gwen is done running. Finney breaks. He admits he doesn't want to feel scared or angry anymore. He just wants it to end. Their dad tries to convince Gwen to leave, but she refuses. She tells them their mom found the grabber long before he took Finney. He grabbed her, took her home, and hung her. She repeats the exact words he said when their dad found her, which she couldn't have known. They must believe their mom's dreams weren't just dreams, and neither are Gwen's. The next day, they keep searching for the bodies. Another day passes. Gwen, who is exhausted, takes a little break but falls asleep. Mustang tries to wake her, but too late. The grabber is coming. He skates toward them with his axe. Gwen tries to stop him. He slams his axe into one of the assistants and drags him across the ice. So Gwen dives into the water and finds the kids below. She tries to bring them up, all while the others are still being attacked by the invisible murderer. He uses his belt to choke Finney, while their dad jumps into the water to help Gwen. Finney kicks the grabber off, just as the bodies are found. And then finally, Gwen confronts the grabber. He skates toward her, but one of the kids bursts through the ice and grabs him. Then another. All three stand before him. She tells him the boys have been found. He has no power left, and pulls the mask right off of his stupid face. Finney grabs him and smashes his head into the ice again and again. One of the kids' skeletons holds the grabber's foot, so Gwen hacks it off. They throw him into the water, where his victims pull him under. Gwen focuses and wakes beside Ernie, then kisses that little nerd right on the mouth. Later, Mando finally makes the call he's waited years to make. He found the bodies. As Gwen and Finney walk away, the phone booth rings again. Gwen drops everything and answers. It's their mom. She tells Gwen the afterlife is beautiful, just like her, and that she set the boys free. She did a good job. Gwen asks if she'll always be cursed, but her mom says it's not a curse. Gwen tells Finney what their mother said, and they both cry as their dad tells them it's time to go. And now that we know how the movie ends, let's dive into how Gwen and Finney's powers actually work. It's clear throughout the movie that they share the same abilities, but Gwen is much stronger than her brother. Finney can talk to ghosts that haven't crossed over yet, while Gwen can actually connect with them and step into their world. The movie doesn't really explain these powers in any real detail, so of course we start theorizing. One of the easiest connections to make is that the original Black Phone short story was written by none other than Joe Hill, the son of horror legend Stephen King. In the first Black Phone movie, these powers are still very underdeveloped, but in part 2, the directors took some liberties and put a lot more focus on them, and they clearly did that with Stephen King in mind, especially the abilities he created in his own books known as The Shine. Gwen's powers, in many ways, resemble those of Abra and the True Knot members from the Dr. Sleep book and movie, so I believe that's exactly what they were going for. So now that we've established that Gwen and Finney's powers closely resemble the Shine, the question remains, will there be a third installment in the Black Phone universe? I honestly don't think so, because the grabber is now truly defeated, and bringing him back again would feel like a sad money grab. But if we can confirm that these powers are essentially the Shine, then we could imagine a Gwen meets Abra crossover movie. Since both King and his son are still alive and kicking, a shared crossover story isn't completely impossible. Then again, that might be a little too Avengers Assemble for the horror genre as a whole. And now, for my opinion, hear me out. I know the first Black Phone movie was widely loved, but I personally found it mediocre at best. The second movie, however, was much more my style. It leaned a lot more into the powers, and even though it wasn't the least bit scary, I still found it very entertaining. It has a 72% score on Rotten Tomatoes, and honestly, I think that's exactly where it belongs. Black Phone 2 is very entertaining, but not mind-blowing. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.